Hello everyone, this is Serious Trivia. Welcome back to our subscriber game tournament as we continue with round 1 with match 9 between Storm's End and Tall Hat Gang. And looking at Storm's End's army in the green, we can see a very thematic general choice with Liu Bei, Guan Yu, and Zhang Fei, the three brothers of the Peach Garden. And we have an army composed of melee saber infantry, 2 E-archers, 4 of the peasant band, or actually they're Raider Cav, and then 5 of the Spear Guard. A pretty interesting and straightforward army composition with a lot of cavalry options. A few archers guarded by some Spear Guard, pretty excellent choice. And then opposing him with the Tall Hat Gang, represented by Yuan Shao of course, Zhuge Liang, and Huang Zhong. We have our first attempt at a range-focused army, which is very difficult to pull off in multiplayer just because human players tend to flank at all angles to prevent getting shot by range. And we can see that on Yuan Shao we have 2 of the Ye Vanguard Spearmen, 4 of the Ye Vanguard Crossbowmen, which has longer range and it's more focused on range compared to the dual weapons of the Spearmen. Then we have 2 heavy repeating crossbowmen on Zhuge Liang and 4 heavy crossbowmen. And finally, Huang Zhong is providing the front line here with 2 of the Imperial Defenders, 2 of the Jin Infantry, or the Jin Spear Guard Infantry. I think they're just called Jin Infantry, but basically better Spear Guards, and 1 Axe Band and 1 Archer Militia. So I understand the thinking behind the last 2 unit here. Tall Hat Gang probably had some money left over and wanted a full army. But in my opinion, what he really should have done is instead of spending money on those 2 units, he should have turned all those money into extra ranks for his range unit so they can gain additional range attack speed, which makes a huge difference, especially on crossbow units, which tend to reload quite slowly. Looking at the left side, Storm End actually spent his extra money on upgrading his cavalry so they get a little bit extra morale, especially the Raider Cav that needs it. And then he gave level ups to his melee cav as well, and 1 rank up to his Spear Guard instead of pursuing just the extra unit. I think in this case, having 2 militia quality unit isn't going to make a difference and will actually give you extra issues because once they start routing, they provide a negative morale to nearby allies. So they'll actually hurt you in the long run and they serve really no purpose in this army comp. So you might as well not use those and provide a few rank up to make your army a bit better with the unit that you actually want to perform in the battle. So with that said, let's jump into the battle itself and see how this matchup plays out. Alrighty, so as we load into battle here and we paused it with the tactical view, let's first take a look at the general quality. We have a level 3 Liu Bei, level 3 Zhang Fei, level 3 Guan Yu, no surprises there. Yuan Shao is only level 2. Wow, this is actually shocking, because he actually does not pick up Distant Courage until rank 3. So even though Yuan Shao is super strong, without Distant Courage and the 50 extra morale he can provide for nearby units, I would rate him quite low here, because the second skill he has is useless since there's no other Yuan family member on the field with him, and only thing he's providing here is Unyielding Earth. So it really begs to question whether you needed to pay for the Axe Band and the Archer Militia, or rather just spend those extra money on Yuan Shao to get him to rank 3 and pick up Distant Courage. Now of course, this composition isn't revolved around Distant Courage, but it definitely helps. We have Huang Zhong, who's rank 3, and he's here really for Swift Fingers to increase nearby units' range attack rate by 100%, which is why I mentioned upgrading them would be beneficial because it increases the base figure. So right now 100% boost is giving you from 5 point something to 11. If you had ranked up these units by 1 or 2 points, you would have been able to get more yield from that just because Huang Zhong can double whatever you have. Now Zhuge Liang also has a similar ability, but it's not a passive one, it's an active one. It's called Way of the Wind, which gives you 60 seconds of 50% extra damage from range, both armor piercing and base. And this is going to be the strategy for this army really. the use of Huang Zhong and Zhuge Liang to provide a huge range damage composition that can shoot fast and hurt a lot, which is quite beneficial. But Huang Zhong needs to be placed well because the range is actually very limited on the Swiftfinger. It's only 50 meters. You can see the circle. So the way this army is deployed is not optimal. He should have stacked his unit vertically so they can all get the bonus instead of horizontally, which is a bit unfortunate because now these units basically don't get those boosts. You can see their rate of fire is only 4, it's 5. The Vanguard units are actually a bit more premium at 8, and you can see the difference, right? Sitting here, getting that massive boost, we're maxing out the attack rate, which is very interesting. I actually don't know how that interaction is working out, but you can see the difference is night and day, getting a boost or not. So this deployment is troubling. The general level choice is also a bit troubling, and I think it's hard enough for the range composition to work in the first place, but who knows, maybe it will surprise us. So let's see how this is played out, and let's see how this army by Storm End approaches the Tall Hat Gang's range composition, which should be pretty stationary. I don't think they want to move at all. They're not really incentivized to move, so we'll see how it's countered. And we can see Storm End realizes the enemy is playing a very defensive setup that's not going to move at all, so he's trying to move into the forest. Now these patches of trees here will help because you will break in and out of line of sight pretty easily, and it can stop a lot of the auto fire. And you can see the range on these. Well, we can't see them, but they're probably only covering about here. So they're safe all the way to the river. What is Zhuge Liang doing? So Huang Zhong shifted, and you can see the bonus instantly changes, but then these don't have it. So the optimum way is actually stack them, you know, kind of inside this circle, and then set up the defense outside of the circle with the rest of the spear units, instead of having him kind of splitting duties and having half of units not getting that boost. The Zhuge Liang move forward for some reason. I mean, he can always scout with Sight of the Dragon, but I believe this is one use only, lasts 3 minutes, giving you basically the sight of the whole map. This setup is pretty concerning though, because the cavalry, I think, can easily flank across, right? You can easily creep away from the range indicators. You can kind of tell by the E-Archer range. This should be 200 range, and the most he should have is 220 to answer, so it's about the same, especially since there's frontline units too. So, judging by the distance, you're safe all the way to here. If you draw out this cone shape this way, cavalry can really flank pretty easily behind this, and there's nothing stopping them. All the spear are on the front. The circle is also a strange choice, actually. I believe circles are really good at stopping infantry because of the amount of, like, basically if you get a line infantry here, as long as it touches something, it kind of just drags the whole unit across and doesn't get a good coverage on it. But overall, yeah, so Guan Yu has taken a group of cavalry to flank, Zhang Fei has taken a group of cavalry to flank, Liu Bei is holding down the front to apply pressure. You do want to lose some, units, it's fine. There are no formations on these spear guards, which is a bit unfortunate, or else you could turtle up. Has to do with Guan Yu, I believe. It doesn't work where Liu Bei is leading, so everyone will get turtle formation. But Liu Bei does have stone bark, so he could cover them as they advance. You can kind of see the range. You can use that as a judge. They just barely outrange them, so you're forced to kind of tilt your army to face the cavalry. And what you really should do is spread the cavalry out, have them all across a different angle, because this army is very stationary. There is no range. Okay, the fire started. So they can't come out and pick on your cavalry. So you can lay your cavalry out like one here, 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 and there's no way they can have the right angle on you. Alright, so the shots are starting, the E-Archers are firing back. And we can see Guan Yu pulled really far. And it's an interesting split. It's 2 melee, 2 shock in each group instead of like 4 melee, 4 shock, which is smart because you're going up against range, you need those melee to do stuff for you. Liu Bei is kiting out some of the arrows, so they're advancing. Liu Bei should use the ability, perfect. So all these arrows are now being wasted if they don't get redirected right now. Nothing's hitting. for the next 30 seconds. And they're using this opportunity to kind of close rank. You can see no one's actually facing back, so they turn it to the flank, but now you have to micro them again. And it's just a lot of work to get your range formation to work, because a human player will always try to poke for your weakness, and they had to pull their spear units to the back. So there's only 2 more frontline units in the front, so attacking the front is actually a lot easier now. As you can see, the spear guard is going to make contact with the crossbow right here, and friendly fire is kicking in too from this flanks. So once they make it here, I don't know why they're staying back, but once they make it here, it's going to be a lot easier. So they're getting shot, but they're making that charge. Guan Yu's going to make it and stop them from firing. And crossbow, with their slow, attack rate, is not going to get that many shots up. The Axeman, completely useless unit here. Zhang Fei's also in. Zhang Fei has the roar, and because Yuan Shao is not rank 3 and also AFK, none of the units will get the plus 50 morale. And if Zhang Fei gets in middle here, they have to stop Zhuge Liang, who has Stifling Deluge. But if he moves around to here and maybe roar on these units here, they all rout. Cavalry still very fresh, chase down infantry. They will never bounce back. Maybe catch a general together. That way, Huang Zhong will just be routing the whole time. That could be the play. Right now, Stifling Deluge is still on, so you can't do it. You gotta chase Zhuge Liang off the field. Guan Yu is doing exactly that. And when he gets an opening, I would try to get Huang Zhong together with some of the spear units with a roar right here. This is a good chance right now. See if Zhang Fei gets to do it. There we go. Perfect. So you see, instant minus 100 morale. All units will rout. Right now, get a cavalry unit on top of each routing unit, and they'll never bounce back. You cannot regroup, even if your morale is positive, when you have a unit attacking you. So someone needs to stick on Huang Zhong, and he will never bounce back from that. Perfect. And so you can see all the right flank is gone after that one roar. Ooh, Huang Zhong's going to bounce back though. He didn't get a chase on it. But essentially, if you have a general on the run like this, you can see the morale bouncing back after your time's out. Just have one of your cheapest cavalry units, whichever one you have, shot cavalry, raider cav, chase after them, and they'll never be able to bounce back from that. So these units did get, pretty lucky, not really getting chased down by cavalry. The cavalry wasn't microed as well, but overall that was still a big win. And the infantry is still pressing up against the repeating crossbowmen, and there is no real cavalry target for these, crossbowmen to actually hit. They're just kind of sitting here in a square now, pretty useless. It's because they identify friendly fire, so they're not even going for it. But you can see the cavalry is actually struggling against these spear units, so that is going to be something that will be difficult to go power through. Kill the generals first, and then rely on Guan Yu and Zhang Fei's abilities to kill spear units. I think that's the best plan. Right now, just spread the cavalry out, pick on these range unit that bounce back. Don't let them get shots in. They're not facing the right way, because Tall Hat Gang hasn't realized they bounce back, so they're still facing the way they're running. Alright, Yuan Shao is doomed, or dead. Guan Yu is coming in to clean up some units. And you want to keep cleaning up the range first. Just leave the spear units at the end. And use your generals to overpower them would be the plan here. Huang Zhong is trying to pick off some units with his range. Or not. He shot one arrow and then stopped. Seems like fire will is turned off, or else he'll just keep shooting. Finally realized he's bounced back. They turned them around as well. This is close, actually, because Storm's End actually lost a lot of his units too. The left flank didn't go in his favor, and the crossbowmen are back and firing. So perhaps they can pick off some of these units. See, they're wavering here. I wonder if Liu Bei can help them with any sort of abilities. I don't know if the cooldown's enough. Maybe it's still on cooldown because he used it earlier. The spear guards are not strong enough. The cavalry need to pick on the range units. And then it's just going to be the generals. 3 brothers against a bunch of Imperial defenders, yet units. So it's going to be close to see what happens here. Liu Bei's dismounted. Zhang Fei's fatigue immune and killed Zhuge Liang. The cavalry is trying to help the spear situation. I don't think that's wise. Clean up the crossbow units first. But the flanking charge would help, but it's not strong enough to kill off the units off right. And then afterward, they'll be stuck in melee against a bunch of spear, which is difficult. Guan Yu is who you want to send here, actually. Even though the slash ability is not a circular one and it's cone shape, anything helps. Now, they're not dead. Most of those are just knockdowns, but still. The generals are coming in. Huang Zhong is getting a warning shot. It's a morale hit. It doesn't actually do that much damage. Yeah, it doesn't do any damage, actually. So, see, the cavalry's going to die here because of this usage. They should have been sent over here first. Liu Bei is providing quite a nice inspiring word boost, unbreakable, melee evasion. Kind of basically save these guys, right? They were going to rout, and before they rout, using that allowed them to pull away, maybe gather up. They're out of ammo, but this group still has ammo, so we'll see. We'll see if they can rally them over and kill these first, and then just let the generals take care of the situation, really. If they can kill Huang Zhong here, that would be a great help. Because he's technically the commander of these spear units too, so when he dies, they'll lose more morale too. But the generals, yeah, Liu Bei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, very strong. They're going to overpower the spear. And do you want your cavalry? No, not they don't need help here. This is so free. But I mean, they're going to be free to the generals afterward anyways. Army loss kicked in and they routed. So this was quite an interesting fight. A very excellent use of Zhang Fei's roar, and it was enabled because there was no countermeasure to it. Yuan Shao needed to use his Stoneborg ability, basically give Unbreakable to your unit to counteract Zhang Fei's roar. It's a timing game. You kind of have to use it right when Zhang Fei does it. It didn't do as much damage as it could have, because it could have chased away the general, and Huang Zhong could have basically never recovered from that, but he did recover. And in the end, the range comp, which I personally don't think worked in multiplayer, you know, as much as I love range comp for the campaign, I don't think it's suitable against a human opponent who's going to try to find all the angles to go against you. So good pressure by Storm End, attacking from basically two directions at the same time, pressing up with the spear guards, coordinated with the cavalry, good micro on the cavalry to find gaps, targeting the vulnerable units. Once it became messy, though, definitely micro fell off a little in terms of identifying some easy targets on the outside. Win against spear, you know, you really don't want to charge your cavalry ever against spear units. It doesn't matter if it's a rear charge. It just doesn't do enough damage. You kill them all right, and then afterwards you'll be just fighting an uphill battle. So you might as well use them to kill what you can, and then in the very end, come back, take care of the spears with your generals. But good fight. Let's go to the post-battle and take a look at the numbers. So looking at how the range units performed, obviously it's a bit uneven, because if you got charged on in the beginning, you didn't do anything. So that's why range units are just super vulnerable. You know, if you get killed, you basically have no output. If you can stand on the field for a long time, they didn't do most of that in melee. Most of that's just them sitting there in a square shooting people. Then you can get a lot of damage. So it might have been even better if he just had swapped all these to the shorter range but much more defensible Ye Vanguard Spear version, and have them in square to protect these alongside these more stable Spear front line, and ignore these two units, put the upgrade money into Yuan Shao and have him stand in the middle of a square, which is a great way to protect him, and he will just sit there and give everyone plus 50 morale, and potentially you could outlast this army. Because there was a moment even when the left flank for Storm End kind of broke when the spear units won out those fights, but with the generals all dead and with the three brothers still very healthy, the rest of the fight was really foregone conclusion at that point. So great fight. Congratulations to Storm's End to move on to round 2, and thanks Tall Hat Game for participating, and we'll be moving on to our next match. So until then, bye.